I can still hear the exact words in my head to this day. Son, you're gonna have to grow up fast now. It's time to leave all the games and playing around behind. There'll always be time for that stuff later on. But now, you have to take care of business on your own. It doesn't sound like fun, but it's time to grow up. These were the last words that my parents left me with before heading back to New York after dropping me off at Brooks for the start of my high school journey. After listening to my parents' motivational yet terrifying final remarks, the last thing I wanted to do was to let them down throughout my 4 years here. And as I watched my family's car drive out of the exit of the Brooks campus without me, I couldn't help but to let a couple of tears run down my face. I wiped them away as quickly as possible before anyone could see. I had no idea what the next morning was going to feel like, waking up in a room for a complete stranger to get ready for school. I didn't know when the next time would be that I get to see my family again. And my mind wandered all over the place when I questioned if my relationship with my friends and family would still be the same throughout the long distance and not seeing or talking to them as often. But I had to give it a shot anyway and just hope and trust that everything would work out perfectly. So here I was. This is it. I'm actually on my own now. Well, I bet it won't be too bad, I said to myself. When I first stepped foot on campus, I was a 15-year-old teen, about 5'5", weighing maybe 120 pounds on a good day. To say the least, I was a little boy getting ready to live a life on my own. I was preparing for a life away from everyone I knew. This meant no more riding the bus to and from school for my friends anymore, no more coming home to my mom's amazing home-cooked meals after a long day of school and sports, no more watching the New York Knicks games with my dad at night, and no more of me giving my little sister every last answer to her homework every night, which now that I think about it, is probably better for her anyway. I would also be so far away from home that my family wouldn't be able to come and watch my basketball games as often. My parents had never really missed any of my basketball games before, and if one couldn't make it, the other one would always be there somehow. On the rare occasion that neither of my parents could make it to any of my games, I could always count on my sisters being there, whether it was my older sister being the loudest fan in the crowd, yelling at me for missing a free throw and not playing defense, or my little sister just sitting quietly and observing, giving me a little smirk to make me laugh during the middle of my games when I would happen to glance over. I realized that things would be a little different now, but it just didn't feel right. Something felt wrong when I thought about the fact that I'd have to find a new crowd to hang out with and that I'd be living with random people I had never met before. Uncertainty is a scary thing, kind of like the same feeling many seniors may get when thinking about what college we might all end up at months after graduating from Brooks, or the same feeling people get when their mind wanders off to think about what happens after death. My mind just painted a blank picture in my head, because that part of my life hadn't been filled in yet with what it would look like and how it would feel. It was weird to think that I'd be living with random people and I'd have to find a new crowd to hang out with, but it was time for a change now. And although these changes felt huge at the time, it wasn't the end of the world, because somewhere in my mind, I knew change was a good thing. The new beginning wasn't a bad thing at all. From the start, I felt like Brooks was the place for me. I was making friends easily, and I felt like all of the adults and faculty cared about me greatly. I was surprised by the large number of faculty who knew who I was, even though I had never met them before. I would often get a, "Hey, you're Dontae, right? Nice to meet you. I'm Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. How are you?" And on that first day, about 6 teachers mentioned to me how much they liked my name. I never really looked at the name Dontae as anything unique or special. It was just a regular name to me. It still is, actually. But whether it was their actual feelings or them just making small talk, I kind of liked the attention, and it gave me something to think about and smile at for the moment. As that first week of school went on, things just began to get even better. I was beginning to fall in love with being away from home, so much that my mom had to call my advisor multiple times because I would rarely call home to let her know how everything was going. I guess that I was having so much fun that it hadn't hit me yet that I was still away from everyone. This was the ideal place for me, a place that I couldn't have even imagined when I was living back in New York. Although I did eventually begin to miss my 2 sisters, I also enjoyed staying up with the boys in the dorm late almost every night, just having fun, talking about nonsense. While half of the campus was busy sleeping, we were busy staying up, watching scary movies, listening to music, or being ridiculously loud, throwing soccer balls at each other to the point where Mr. Grant would have to come up to the 3rd floor door and ask us to please quiet down because us rowdy little freshmen wanted to stay up past our bedtime, which he would usually have to do at least 3 times a week. Although these are some small moments of my freshman year, they were big for me because those boys played a huge role in making everything 10 times more comfortable for being away from home. I would always tell my mom when I was younger that I wanted to have brothers around my age, and they treated me like family, so in a sense my wish was beginning to come true. Although I technically didn't have my mom and my dad here with me to hold my hand through this new experience, I had some faculty and teachers who I looked up to as parent figures, along with teammates and classmates who quickly became my new brothers and sisters. I was grateful to be a part of this community. Despite the fact that everything was going well and I was having so much fun, things weren't necessarily a walk in the park for me as time went on. I began to find myself struggling, and I found myself in situations I had never experienced before. The school workload and curriculum were beginning to get very overwhelming and challenging for me. And I felt like I didn't have enough time in the day to get anything done. I felt like there was no way anyone in the world can handle the simple task of getting so many things done with so little time to do them. Well, welcome to Brooks. I was in the middle of a bad storm, receiving awful test grades along with missing homework assignments and late nights spent trying to catch up, leaving me extremely tired and sometimes waking up late for the next day. My only reaction was to try to isolate myself and get things done on my own. I would often lie down in my bed, wondering how I dug myself in such a hole. I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. I couldn't really text any of my friends back home anymore because by the time I actually had some free time to text them, it would be around 10 or 11 p.m., which was way too late to even have some sort of a meaningful conversation. The only two people who I really talked to from back home was my mom and Kareem, my AAU basketball coach. I spent summers playing basketball with him as my coach. When I would have a bad game, he would always laugh at how upset I'd be and tell me not to worry about it. Things will work out if you just keep fighting through failures and disappointments. Whenever I was feeling down, he would always be able to tell and would say something to make me laugh. Something like how he would dunk on me if I didn't put a smile on my face, which was hilarious to me because he was barely 5 feet. Coach Kareem called me at the end of every week just to let me know how everything was going and to check in on me. It would rarely even be about basketball, but more about how all the other things in my life were going. And at the time, my responses would consist of lies to cover up my struggles at Brooks. And when my mom called me, just wanting to catch up and talk and ask how things were going, I pretended it was all okay. I would tell her that everything was still going well and that I was doing great in school. My relationship with my mom was beginning to fall. Lying could be exhausting, and it's sometimes just easier to avoid the conversation altogether rather than to face the truth. I figured that since my mom wasn't with me to see every single test grade and homework assignment now, that I could probably get back on track before she received word or realized that I was struggling. As basketball season came around, the hole began to get even bigger. I made the varsity team as a freshman, but I wasn't playing anywhere close to the level I was expecting to play at. My true age was beginning to show, on a team where I was the youngest kid, and I felt like I couldn't compete at that level. And not having any familiar faces, such as family or friends, to look at in the crowd while I was playing made me feel like not wanting to play as hard as I usually would anymore. After not touching the court for the first couple of season games, reality hit me hard. I knew that I wasn't going to get through this tough time by continuing to do the things I was doing every day, in the classroom and on the basketball court. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I was definitely insane to think that things were just going to magically get better. So I worked extra hard every single day, putting in the extra work in the areas that I was struggling in at the time of my life. At the end of the year, a big weight came off my shoulders. First, at a school meeting, I received the Most Improved Award for basketball. It felt great to know that my coaches and teammates recognized my hard work. Even better, at the award ceremony on graduation weekend, I received word that I received the Most Improved Award for the entire freshman class for my academic progress. I had never considered that I might get these awards, and they meant the world to me. They reminded me that my hard work was actually paying off. That's not to say that it was smooth sailing from there, or that it was easy. These challenges and new experience that I was faced with weren't just something that happened once throughout my Brooks journey. It's something that happens every day, every year, and even now as a senior. During the spring of my junior year, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed when I happened to see a picture of Coach Kareem posted by one of my teammates. At first, I just laughed as I had just finished talking to my coach a couple of days ago. But as I kept scrolling, my heart dropped as I read the caption. It read, "Rest in peace, Coach Kareem, we'll miss you." I didn't want to believe that was true, and I had no idea how to handle it. I just didn't understand how someone could be with you one day and just completely gone from your life the next. At the time, I had the option to let it break me and just fall apart, or go the opposite route and finish my junior year out even stronger. Although I was devastated with the loss of my coach, I knew what he would have wanted me to do, and that is for me to have finished my junior year out even stronger with everything that was going on. You find out who you really are in times of adversity and hardships. There are still many times throughout the school year where I feel like everything is getting too hard or that I can't get to the place I want to be academically or athletically. There are days where I felt like quitting, and days where I felt like I couldn't go on any longer or that I didn't belong here. And although I did feel bad in those moments, I do remember the smile and joy that I got and still get when I eventually get through those bumps in the road. That's all that those hard times are, just bumps in the road. Nothing more and nothing less. But at the end of the day, life isn't going to stop when things get tough. We all have to keep going. I realize that we can get through anything with the hard work and the resilience that I know we all have inside of us, along with helping hands from friends, family, classmates, adults, coaches, and teachers to pick us up when we get knocked down. So that's a little over 3/4 of my Brooks journey. I still have one more quarter to go, and I have no idea what that quarter holds for me. I'm no longer that little 5'5", 120-pound freshman that came into Brooks 3 years ago. It was a simple decision, along with the hope and courage to take a leap into a new journey that has helped me to grow and learn from uncomfortable situations. Next year, I'll probably walk onto some campus that's totally new to me. Sure, I'll be 5'11" now and jacked up to 160 pounds, but it'll still be scary. There'll be someone else new to live with, to study with, to play with, and I know for a fact that there'll be some obstacles thrown my way. But I'm ready, and I can't wait to see what's next.